Thanks, Amanda, for joining me today to talk about imposter syndrome. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's my pleasure, Dustin.
Awesome. You were telling me before we started that you felt a little imposter syndrome about the imposter syndrome video.
Yeah. I started having that self-doubt that, like, who am I to even contribute to an imposter syndrome video?
Well, perfect. You're the perfect person then. So, we'll chat for a minute about, if you don't mind, introducing yourself and telling people who you are, and you are a Lambda School student, so you can talk a little bit about where you're at in the program, and then we'll jump into it.
All right. Hi, my name is Amanda Lane. I'm in Web 19. I am in the back end portion of the curriculum this week. I think I'll have about 3 weeks left, and then I'll be done with the full stack portion of the program.
Awesome. How's it been so far?
It's been a roller coaster. I mean, the first week I remember just feeling so confident because I had happened to study, what was needed that week. But then the second week, I just remember that's when everything just started getting really tough on me already. And so I thought, wow, if it's already this tough, how
Wait,
make.
week two from the very beginning, like the week two?
Yeah, it was so silly, the stuff I got stuck on, and it was because I think I was so stubborn, and I was still stuck in that, like, I'm a self-taught developer mindset where I wasn't able to accept help from others very well.
Hmm. Yeah. And that's something that I think I've seen a lot, that uh, imposter syndrome, one thing it blocks you from doing is reaching out for help. And I think a lot of people who feel that uh, don't want to reach out for whatever reason. It could be because you feel inadequate. Maybe for you, you're so used to self-learning that you don't want to reach out because that would show some kind of weakness from what you've been doing. How do you think, how did that manifest to you in that situation where you didn't want to ask for help?
I think both. It was definitely, I noticed, like, especially during front end when it got really, really hard, I isolated myself and I, like, wasn't joining the Q&As and, like, after hours and stuff like I normally was. And I noticed that I also, oh dang it, what was the second point that you had made about it?
Just where you kind of felt like you almost let yourself down if you
Yeah.
out for
And
help.
oh yeah, and exactly. And it was like weakness to ask for help was my mindset. And I think that that's a terrible mindset, and you are really limiting yourself. And nobody's born knowing any of this stuff. So it'd be silly to, like, it's like showing up for a test you didn't study for. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's so interesting. I hadn't really thought about, like, a lot of times when I think of imposter syndrome, I think of how other people will judge me. That's kind of how it's manifested through my career. I've been afraid to show weakness to others, but to show weakness to myself and admit that in myself, that's a way I hadn't thought about it before.
Oh wow.
Is that something that you feel?
I have no problem being like, I don't know, and, like, show to others, but, like, for me to, like, really, I guess, admit it, I guess I never really thought about it the other way. Kind of
Yeah.
funny.
So share with me a little bit on that, on how you view yourself when you're feeling imposter syndrome and you feel like you don't want to reach out for help or whatever it is. How are you viewing yourself at that moment?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like I noticed that there's, like, this negative self-talk voice in your head that, like, is feeding you this narrative that isn't true, and, like, the more you listen to it, it's like you spiral into this um into this depth that's like, I can't do this. I'm not, it just gets worse and worse and worse until you've just completely got yourself, like, upset and, like, feeling like this
Mhm.
isn't for you, and you can't do it, and that everybody else is just so much smarter than you are, and, like, you're too old to get this now, and there's not enough time for you to learn everything. I mean, everything just starts going through your head.
So really, just what's the phrase? I just saw this. Do you feel like you almost self sabotage your progression?
Exactly. Like you get yourself so upset that you can't even take in new information or like figure out what's going on because you've already told yourself you can't do it. It's like you've already programmed your brain to like block yourself from being able to do it
Hmm.
because you're saying over and over and over, I can't. So like there's no room for you to can.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does that impact you in your personal life and in your professional life? Does it bring on anxiety, stress, depression? Does it lead to like job dissatisfaction? What have you noticed when in your life, personally and professionally, as you're feeling those?
That's funny you asked that because that's kind of something I talked about on my Airtable today. Is I noticed like as I'm going through Lambda, I'm not only learning how to code, I'm like learning how to cope with stress better.
Huh.
And that I in the past have been like, I don't know, like I can have a quick temper or like quick reactions and like
Hmm.
I need to learn I've learned to like I need to stop. Like a quick reaction is like the worst thing you can do. If you can just take some time before you react to something, it can really help the process. So
Yeah.
instead of like immediately jumping to like I suck at this, like this I'm no good at code, like I can't figure this out, like maybe say hold on, like take a break if you need one, have some water, take care of yourself for a minute and then come back with a clear head and then maybe it'll make sense. And then if it doesn't, then you can get help because that's what community
Yeah.
is for.
Well, and I think even like when you first recognize that that's happening, calling it out helps. So
Yeah,
saying, okay, whoa, 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 this is imposter syndrome. What do I do? Okay, this is imposter syndrome. Stop, and then step away, and then go through those steps. Have you ever tried that before?
I had never like really thought it out like that, but you're right. Like acknowledging it is like the most important part.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes just putting a name to it helps us realize that no, it's not that I suck at this. It's that my inner mind is telling me I suck when I don't.
Right.
I just need to take a few deep breaths, go for a walk, whatever it is, to release and then come back and face the situation with an even head. Um, awesome. That's I love your perspective because it's so different than mine. And I think everybody obviously is going to face imposter syndrome in their own ways. Do you have any go-to like techniques that help you that you've seen as you've been going through Lambda School that really help you overcome imposter syndrome?
For me, I just realized like some of my imposter syndrome is not false. Like I did come into Lambda with like a month of studying JavaScript, honestly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I really was behind. So I used that insecurity to like fuel my fire. And I remember in class one day, you asked a question that was like currying, and I was like, boom, answered it. And I thought everyone else was going to answer it with me. And it was like dead silent. And I was like, that was such a cool feeling for me. That was like a moment that helped me really break through my imposter syndrome. So actually like studying and doing the work and like seeing it pay off was like the biggest reward for me and like really helped me overcome imposter syndrome.
Yeah, but it kind of took that moment of courage to put yourself out there a little bit and say, okay, I'm going to answer this question to get that rewarding experience that you now lean on to when you are feeling imposter syndrome again.
Luckily, I had studied so much, I was like 70% sure I was right. But yeah, you're right. Like that does take a lot of courage too in class. But the more you can do that and put yourself out there, the better too, because that's when you stop feeling like so afraid to be wrong. Because it's like okay to be wrong. It's okay to write code wrong. Like you just refactor it and it'll be right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's okay to be wrong. I think that's something that a lot of us need to print out and put above our computers or something. Just remember that more.
I think that's something I have a mentor that I work with, another student here that has helped me a lot. That he just always is like, I don't know, but like he makes these amazing apps, but like he just shows me like you run into a problem, you figure out how to solve it. You don't know how to solve all these problems. You're never going to know how to solve them all, but you're here to learn how to solve them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You mentioned something right at the beginning that I think is really interesting, that there's been times you feel like you're telling yourself that everybody else around you is good at this except for you. What do you think leads to those feelings And how do you pull yourself away from that? How do you realize that that's totally not true? Because it's not.
I still struggle with that, if I'm gonna be honest. I'm really mad about that too. Like I'll tell everybody, like, don't compare yourself to other, like, comparison's the thief of joy, and like I'll do it. I do it. We all do it. It's impossible not to. I think it's so funny. Like, before I started Lambda, I started running, and there's a lot of similarities between learning to code and learning to run. It takes a lot of discipline and consistency, and results build slowly over time. And so I was kind of prepared for that, but it's like, I don't know, it's a lot of interesting parallels between those two, and I think that's helped me.
That's really cool.
I go off on tangents, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. So let's see, the question. Okay, yeah. So when you're feeling that, what helps you recognize that that's a lie that you're telling yourself, that everybody else around you are having their own struggles? Like, how do you help yourself realize that?
Something that has helped recently that I've been able to do is like actually help others. And like, I can help, like I helped a professional React developer in a pair programming situation. So just like putting myself out there more, I realized like I actually do know some stuff. Like I do have some skills, even though I feel like right now I feel like a jack of all trades and a master of none. Like I feel like I know a very little bit of like everything. And but it was kind of like nice to like start working with like my PM or like professional people in the field, and like I was answering questions that they were bringing up. So just putting yourself out there, and when you like, the more you learn and you start to like interact with other people who code, like everybody has something to contribute no matter what level you're at.
Yeah, that's really cool. I didn't know that you had been able to do that.
I just did that this past weekend, and that was actually a really good experience. Like the last couple of weeks have really uplifted me, because I had a really rough week at the very end of front end, and it kind of killed my spirit a little bit. So these are some things that I did personally to help build the fire back up.
Okay, so let me kind of unpackage everything there, because you said a lot of really great stuff. So first, you started out saying that when you help others, that helps you. And I think that's like so on point, because that really is one of the best ways that you can recognize that that other people are struggling. So if you are trying to reach out and help others, you're going to see their struggles, and you're going to see different things that they go through. Is that what you've experienced?
The girl I helped the other day, she had a typo, and I was like, oh, that's always what I have too. That's like always my problem, but you've been looking at it for so long, you didn't see it. So it's just nice.
She's struggling with the same exact thing as you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then tell me a little bit more about helping this React professional. Like, what was that whole situation? How did you do that? And how did that, like, what the heck?
I know. So I really, I came into Lambda just obsessed with JavaScript. I think it's really cool, and I like the step-by-step, like bite-sized problem solving that you have to use with it. And I just think that's like a really cool mindset to have and to work in. And so I reached out to someone who is like a social media like JavaScript guru who's like trying to put a series together to teach code newbies. So I offered him to mentor me, and that would help him build a series for newbies, because it would show him like what newbies struggle with.
Cool. Okay.
So that way, like, he was more likely to say yes. So then, whenever we finally were able to pair program together, I asked him to help me with a project. I had created a React app. It was like a little simple blog app, and I was having an issue where my this.props.history.push wasn't actually pulling back the new post, and I had to reload it. And so he kind of showed me his thought process of, oh, I realized the problem was I had my state managed in app, and app wasn't re-rendering. And so then it made everything click for me that, oh, I managed my state in the wrong place. And the second I like copy and pasted and managed my state in the correct place, like everything was working as it was intended.
Cool. That's awesome. So how that takes a lot of courage. I mean, you don't just go out there and like, not everybody's gonna think, oh, I'm just gonna go find a professional in the industry to help me out.
I know. I don't know why I'm brave in some ways and not others. But really, from like, benefit if you're interested, whoever's watching this, and having that happen, like let them know that benefits them too. It's a mutual relationship when you have a mentor.
Yeah, we're trying to build up a mentor program, which is going to be so helpful, I think, here at Lambda. But until then, like I think that's a great thing to.
I have like 7 mentors. Like you get a whole bunch of mentors.
Yeah, yeah.
Have a bunch of people help that you go to for help, because I mean that's what I do, and it's helped me a lot.
Cool. Um, so another question that I wanted to talk to you about, and this kind of deals with being a woman in the tech industry. There's obviously lots of men who are programmers and not nearly as many women. I think we're actually, I mean, that's starting to change, and that makes me really excited. But how has that? Have you ever dealt with imposter syndrome just by being a woman coming into the tech industry?
Absolutely. I think that it's kind of affected my ability to get in tech my whole life, because even as like a kid, I was raised, I wanted to play video games with my brother, and I was into computer programming then as a kid. And I remember my mom just trying to sway me away from it because those are boy things.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, like I noticed, like this week was kind of stressful for me because I kind of felt like I had to explain myself a lot. And I don't know if that's because I'm a woman, or like I just feel like I have to like explain my reasoning behind my decisions, like if I'm working in a pair programming situation a lot
Yeah.
sometimes. And it seems to be when I work with like other men. So that can be kind of frustrating. But I don't always know. Like that's why I always question it too. Like, is it because I'm a woman, or is it because I'm like new to code? So it's hard to tell right now.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. And it's almost double pressure. Where when I was learning programming, I mean, I didn't feel that double pressure reaching out to other men. I didn't feel that pressure reaching out to women who were in my cohort for
You know,
help.
that's funny. I actually don't feel as much pressure from the men, or like as much like competition or anything like that, or even like nothing but kindness, honestly, from the majority of men. But I do feel like, if I'm being completely honest, I feel a lot more competitiveness when I try to work with other women. And that's something that I wish would change. Like I would love to like code more with other women, but I do feel like we as a gender can be very competitive with one another. It's just biological.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
something that I wish that was different, because it would be so cool to like design cute girly apps with other girls.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, so what if you um, if you could give a piece of advice to any women watching this video, what would you say to them?
I would say to not worry so much about anything except learning how to code and working with the people in the community, not worrying about gender. I just don't think about it a whole lot, to be honest.
That's probably good.
Yeah, like don't focus on that too much, for sure. I think that like the more you focus on something, the more you could feel like it's happening when it's not. So like always try to question it. Like give people the benefit of the doubt that you're working with. I mean that's tough. I say
Yeah.
for women especially, like, and work with each other, like mentor each other. Because I had like the most rewarding experience was helping another female in my group the other day, and like we both,
Mhm.
and then I got to ask her experiences of being a PM. So it was like we got to help each other in that instance, because I'm going to be applying to be a PM in a couple weeks.
Cool.
So I mean, it was just an experience that we could both help each other. And I like to work in a group setting, like try to work in group settings where like everybody gets to contribute, and don't just work with other women or don't just work with men. Like try to work with all sorts of different people. Pair program with
Yeah.
someone different all the time.
Yeah. Well, I think I had a really good thought there. Let me see if I can grab it again. Um, Never mind. I guess I can't.
No.
I lost it. That's okay. So, just last question before we wrap up. Um, what what advice do you have, or what is one piece of advice you'd give to someone who is going through the program, who's starting to feel imposter syndrome, or is maybe feeling a little bit down, that has come to watch this video?
I know something that I do to myself a lot is like I do feel like sometimes I don't like if I'm in a group of multiple guys studying, I do feel like sometimes like a separate person, like a fourth wheel or something like that if it's like a big group. So just, when you start having that negative self-talk, go be in your own space. Maybe you've just like overdone it. Self-care is huge. I think that if you can just make self-care a focus, the rest of the stuff kind of gets easier. And like
Yeah.
learn how you work and like what conditions you need to work your best, but then also don't get too comfortable and stay in your comfort zone all the time either.